Hi, I'm JJ Conway, and I help hardworking women and a few good men build financial confidence and take ownership of their financial future. I'm cheering you on with education on financial literacy, smart investments, and passive income streams. Welcome to Ladies of Wealth.
Tonight is our first Thursday of the month, and tonight is our fireside chat. I'm going to answer your questions with what I like to think is style and grace. If you have a question, there are a couple ways that you can ask your question. I'm going to see if I can put them as a ticker at the bottom there. Ask your questions. You can post a comment, fill out the anonymous form at JJC. Yeah. Oh, that's right, y'all. Oh, y'all. Wait, have I shown y'all the new website? Okay, hold on. I'm going to have to do this because I don't think all of y'all have seen the new website. That's the new website. Okay. And I say new, it's been about 2 months or so. I really love it. I did not want to go through the effort of making a new website because the platform I use to distribute all of my podcasts has a pretty decent website. I mean, it's pretty decent. It served me well for these last 6 or 7 years, whatever it's been. And I'm just okay with it. However, for some reason, I couldn't get things to update, and I was applying for a really important speaking engagement, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to spend 1 month on this, and I'm going to take the free trial, and of course, I'm going to cancel it. I used my free trial trick, which I'll share with y'all later. Let me write that down so I don't forget to share it with you later. Okay, my free trial trick. Okay, because I can't stand being sucked in by all these subscriptions that turn out to be fluff and nothing. All right, but this one, I spent about maybe half an hour configuring this site, and then another half an hour or so configuring the customized website name. And y'all, it's so pretty. I'm just so happy with it. I'm actually quite thankful that the Lord forced my hand and had me elevate. And this site has so many neat features. Like, check this out. Over here on the side is a button. You can actually ask your question just with a voice record. You don't have to log in. You don't have to leave your email. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Okay. You just ask your question. And then when I'm ready to answer it on the podcast, I can play it as part of the podcast. So if you have a business, you might want to leave your business name, and how people can contact you if they want more information. You can apply to be a guest. Okay. You can apply to be a guest on here. It tells you about me. It tells you a little bit about our podcast, okay, what we're doing. It gives you a place to put your social links, upload your photo, your website, your bio, all that in one spot. And that way you can just do whatever you got to do, okay? And so I actually have a link here to my media kit. So if you need headshots of me, they're all here. Although now that I see it, I'm like, that's not the best presentation. I'm going to have to figure out something with Google Drive because that's not really cute. But I really love this because I love the fact that you can catch up on old episodes. I love that you can learn more about who I am. And then there's the Ask JJ button. So if you don't want to do the voicemail, you can just ask a question here. Okay. And you don't have to put your real name. Now, if you want to reply, I'm going to need your real email. Like, if you want to come on the show and ask your question, I'm going to need your real email. Because if I don't have it, doesn't bother me. Because we do want to be anonymous sometimes with money questions. Because sometimes money questions, man, people don't want everybody else knowing their business. So you can be anonymous. But if you're going to be anonymous, I can't bring you on the show. Okay. But if you want your voice on the show and just not your face, you can use this handy dandy little voicemail. I love this feature, y'all. Y'all start using that feature so I can start incorporating it. All right. Okay. So that's the new website. And if you are listening to me talk about the new website as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, then I encourage you to go and ladiesofwealth.com and you'll be able to see the new podcast page. Okay. All right. Now let me go ahead and stop that screen and add in the screen that we had before for our fireside chat. And for those of you who are not familiar with me and my body of work, we have different themes for every Thursday. Every first Thursday is Fireside Chat. This is where I answer your money questions. Now, at the end, if I've got the time and the energy and the stamina, we will also do a Juneteenth legacy update for the conference that's coming up in June. Whoa, next month, y'all. Woo! My goodness. Oh, Lord, bring it all together for me, please, in Jesus' name. But I will tell y'all, today has been the National Day of Prayer. It has been so powerful. They started off at 7 a.m. in the courthouse, and I had school drop off, so I didn't participate in the 7 a.m., but 9 a.m., at noon, at 2 p.m., at 6 p.m., and then the 6 p.m., they're still going. They're doing an all-night vigil. I had to tap out at about 8 because I needed to get back here to teach. And so I was just like, wow, okay, Lord, you are doing something so powerful in the city of Stephenville. And I don't know what the Lord's doing. I just know that I'm saying yes to whatever it is that he's leading and guiding me towards. And I'm asking him to move in that capacity. Okay. And so we may not get to the Juneteenth update. I'm just going to let y'all know, because I have been crying and snorting before the Lord. I have been ministering to people without even intending to. And the Lord has just been there. All right. So let me bring that slide back up. This is the first Thursday. And that is the Fireside Chat where I answer questions. Our second Thursdays are our 7-figure business building. So we focus on a multiple stream of income that you can implement. Our third Thursdays is real estate. And then our fourth Thursdays is the empowered entrepreneur. How can you become the person who has what you want out of life? How do you become the person that attracts that into their life with less effort and more results? And so the fifth Thursdays, when we do have a fifth Thursday, that's a wild card. I'm going to be honest with y'all. Sometimes I just put in a replay and spend that time with my family. We've been teaching on Thursday nights for over 10 years now. And sometimes it's just nice for the family to have a break, to just have a break from mama's business. And so, but that's our schedule. And so now I'm going to go into our question that we have for today. And the question stemmed from somebody who wanted to build a business. So this is a great case study. If you have ever wanted to build a consulting or coaching kind of business, or if you have a speaking business and you know that you should be selling courses, but you don't really know how to come up with content for the courses, this is an excellent case study for you, because what I did is what I teach others to do. Someone had a question for me, and in answering their question, I talked about it with other people, other moms, and found out that there was a need. And I said, oh, we need to fill this gap with some training. Okay. And so this question is specifically for a mom who wants to build a business. They want to have they don't have a problem being a stay-at-home mom. Their husband is not mean to them. He doesn't talk about how, she just sits around the house all day. They have a very good partnership. And I was actually pleasantly surprised to find out that they do sit down and talk about their spend plan every month. And I was like, okay, well, what you need to do is y'all need to add some spending cash for each other. But most of the time when I get a stay-at-home mom come to me who is concerned, can we just say it that way? She's concerned about the fact that she doesn't bring anything to the table. Never mind the fact that managing the household in an economical fashion, an efficient fashion, a frugal fashion is a full-time job. Okay, especially you got kiddos running around and you have the commitments that come with being in a small community like I live in today. And so when this person came to me, I thought they were going to fit this other category where they're staying at home. They don't feel like they're contributing anything. They are, but they don't feel like they are. And now their husband is pressuring them to bring in some money, get a job. The kids are in school, do something with your life. Right. And now, to any husbands out there, because I have had conversations like this, and the guy that I'm talking around has been like, oh well, I kind of resemble that husband remark. I want to let you know something, okay? Hey Dennis, I want to let you know something, that for the most part, if you've got somebody working at home, the work that they do to manage the household, keep it clean, And then we're not talking about gender lines here. We're talking about all the things that come from managing the household. Household managers, just to pay somebody off the street to do what a stay-at-home parent does, whether a mom or a husband, is going to be at least $75,000 to $100,000 a year. And that's without the love of care of the kids. That's just the household management. You got to schlep kids all around. Oh my goodness, that's even more. So I was not going to talk about this today, y'all, but somebody needs to be encouraged. If you are contributing to the household, then you are making a good progress. If you have a spouse, let's say spouse, okay, husband or wife, we're not going to use those terms today. If you have a stay-at-home spouse, sometimes it's easy to slip in this pattern of, well, all they do is sit around all day and they just watch stories and play on their phone all day. Okay. I want you to understand something about being a stay-at-home spouse. First of all, they are working from the time they get up to the time you go to bed, and probably a couple hours after you go to bed. And second of all, you come home from work and you sit on the TV and you play on your phone or play video games and watch TV for the next 6 hours, while the stay-at-home spouse is probably still managing all the children and getting people to bed and doing whatever else needs to be done, because, you don't just eat dinner and all the dishes magically clean themselves. You don't just give the kid a bath and then the tub magically cleans itself. Somebody's got to do that. And if you're not doing that because you're the breadwinner and the stay-at-home spouse is staying at home and you don't see the work that goes into it, I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I'm also going to tell you there's a lot of work that goes into advocating for your children in the school system. There's a lot of work that goes on in the community to grease the skid so that you can have the career you want and your children can have the activities they want and everybody can live peaceful, especially in a small town. And so I used to, when I was a working mom, I'm going to admit it. And for those of you who are jumping on about the 2-hour business, I'm going to get to it. But this is the reason why this person wanted a 2-hour a day business. Okay. Because, when I was a working mom, I'm going to admit it. I was like, stay at home mom is so easy. I do everything. And I wasn't just look, y'all, I wasn't just a once a week or have my kids go away every other weekend parent. No, when I was single after that divorce, after I moved away, I was a 24/7 single parent. 24. I did not get breaks. I wasn't like the guys who, when I started dating, like, oh, I'm a single dad. Oh, really? How often do you have your child? Every 2 weeks for the weekend? Like, that is not a single dad. I'm not even going to say the term that came to my mind, because you know what? I don't know who's watching my show. But anyway, that is not a father. Okay. You may have contributed to the lineage, but you are not a father. You only see your child every 2 weeks for the weekend. And that's it. Okay. But I was a full-time single mom. And then when I remarried and had the surprise in my 40s baby, then one of the things that happened was he was in Texas. I was in Virginia. Guess who was by herself with 2 kids now? So 24/7, geographically separated, married, but still single mom. All right. So I understood the struggle of having to do everything by yourself. And I thought that when I retired from the Air Force and I came out to live with my husband and we finally joined our households together, that I was just going to be on easy street, because clearly I was making it work. But one of the things that I discovered is I was making it work and I was patching things along and everything was okay, but I wasn't making it work very well. And maybe your family dynamic, I know I just probably offended like 20 million women out there, because most of the people who come to me are hardworking women. You've worked hard to get where you are, and you're just trying to take life to the next level. You're called for more. And so some of you are going to really recoil when you hear me say that, but I just wasn't doing things well. I was doing it. It was working. I was getting promoted at my job. I was doing the things that I needed to do. I was making great changes for our nation to keep our nation safe. And my children were doing well. They weren't in and out of therapy. They were doing well despite multiple medical conditions that had me running to the doctors for this child and that child and all the different things. They were doing all right. But you know what? All right isn't thriving. All right and average is just all right and average. All right in today's world average in today's world is barely keeping your head afloat. It's barely treading water. It's reaching out for a lifeline, because if you make one false step, it's all going to come tumbling down. That's what life is today. And that's not enough. It's not enough. And I dare say that I am busier now as a stay-at-home mom than I was as a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force in a separate state from my husband with an infant and a 10-year-old. I'm much more busy now, but I'm much more fulfilled. Now, this is not, all of that said, this is not meant to be a philosophical discussion. Boy, I almost filled a podcast on that. Maybe I should talk some more about being a single mom, not single mom, but a stay-at-home mom. Okay, my heart goes out to the single moms out there, because it's tough. It's tough when you're the only. It's tough when you're the only one. It's tough when they're not paying child support. And after a while, the Lord really got a hold of my ex-husband, and he actually did double up. So by the time he was done paying child support for my oldest, he had caught up to all the time that he had missed. And that was a blessing to us. That was a blessing for sure, to be able to buy him all the things that everybody else gets that he might not have been able to afford, because I was still trying to get out of debt. But the thing is, a lot of times, if you don't understand what your spouse brings to the table, it's really easy to look at them and point the finger and be like, well, they're not doing good enough. They're not doing enough. I come home in the middle of the day, surprise her, surprise him, and they're on the TV watching stories. Well, that's the downtime. That's the 1 or 2 hours of downtime that they get that day. At least for me and most of the women that I know. And I know a couple of stay-at-home dads. I'm thinking of one in particular who really helped me out. One of my friend's husbands when I was really struggling after that divorce. And he was a hardworking guy. Anybody that I've personally known. I'm not talking about for the whole world. I know there's a lot of deadbeat dads and a lot of checked out mamas. I've met one or two that weren't really my friends, but they were friends of a friend. And they heard their kids are all running around and they're just on their phone. I can't handle this. And I get it. I totally get it. But that's not the experience. The food, the healthy meals that I prepare, they take a long time to cook everything from scratch. A lot of times I'll even make sausage from scratch because of my neurological eating plan. A lot of those things that somebody who's a home economist does is worth far more than you realize. And whether both spouses work, one spouse works, one spouse is the primary breadwinner and the other one brings in just a little bit, regardless of what version of that you have, it's important to be in unity about your money. So in your money, if you are not working and your spouse is the primary breadwinner, you still have to come together and say, okay, how are we spending money this month? What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And, when are we going to do this? When are we going to replace the countertops? When are we going to buy a new lawnmower? When are we going to stop driving on these bald tires and replace the tires? I love how I repoed my son's car. I think he knew I was coming to get it because it needed the oil change, the tires are bald, and all these other things. I was like, really? Like you. Now I know why he didn't put up a big fight, because he's probably thinking, oh yeah, mom's going to get my car fixed up by the time I earn it back. But you got to plan those things out. And we think sometimes that life is just boop, 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 happening, but we got to plan it out. Because one thing I know about cars, the tires wear out every so many years. And the difference for each car and the difference for each tire, whether it's an 80,000 tire or 100,000 tire, but I know that at a certain point, new tires will be needed. Are we saving for that? I know at a certain point, we're going to need graduation stuff, graduation announcements and spirit this and party that. Are we budgeting for that? Are we planning for that? Or are we going to take that hit all in the month that it happens? We come together, regardless of who's earning what. The important thing is we come together and that we are in unity about what to do with our money. Because I, as a stay-at-home mom, I am a partner with my husband in the execution of the company that is Conway Incorporated. Now, there's no such thing as Conway and, well, there might be, actually, I don't know that. I can't say that. But the family unit is like a business. How are you operating your family unit like a business with a defined purpose, a defined mission, a defined, this is what we're doing. This is the kind, these are the kinds of trips we take. These are the kinds of donations we give. These are the kinds of charities we support. These are the kinds of things that are important to us. You know, in my family, we love to eat well, and we love sporting events. We love going to sporting events, and I love church events. And so we know that that's the bulk of our primary extra spending. When we get on lockstep with what it is that we want to do, we talk about what we want to do. We have the big calendar to be on lockstep. I am not threatened by the fact that I am a stay-at-home mom. And so normally when a stay-at-home mom comes and asks me the question that I'm going to answer here in a little bit, and for those of you who are just joining, I am digging more into something I wasn't planning on digging into, because I realized, oh, we have almost a podcast episode. Let me just keep adding more on this, because, you know, I could talk on this for hours. I'm going to be real with you. I could talk on this for hours because I've lived both sides of the equation. I've lived both sides of the equation. So I feel qualified to talk about being a working mom versus a single mom. Okay, there's so many benefits to being a stay-at-home mom, but a lot of families can't afford to do that. Okay, and so in her case, in this case of this person that came to me, they are on lockstep with their budget. But one thing I noticed they needed is she needed to have some monthly pocket money or weekly pocket money. I forget if they were weekly or monthly budgeting, and he needed to have some pocket money, because that way, when you want to go buy, when you want to go to the tea place and get you some fruit tea, I don't have to call my husband and say, can you Zelle me some money? I have money. He has money. And you should be able to be in lockstep in that. Okay. And then planning is important. When we go to the grocery store on Sunday, of course, we're not going to anticipate everything, but I'm going to do my best to plan. What are we having for dinner? All these. And I know some of y'all highfalutin folks out there, you're going to be like, it doesn't take all that. You can't penny pinch your way to wealth. You can't save your way to wealth. You being frugal doesn't help anybody be wealthy. Well, I'm going to tell you something. How many of y'all got to pay for a house? How many of y'all bought cars for cash in the last year? How many of y'all don't stress when your renter can't pay rent because you know it's covered because you don't have a loan on that property? How many of y'all are earning, I can't spend it yet, I can't touch it yet, I am older than I look, but I'm not that old yet. How many of y'all are earning tax-free money in your investments? I don't even want to hear all of that anymore, because y'all Gucci in your way to debt. Y'all Louis Vuitton in your way to debt. Now I do like my Louboutins, I will say, and I like the way they treat me at that Dallas showcase. So Maurice and the gang, I love y'all. They're so nice. They're so nice to me when I go in there, and it's part of the sales process, and it's part of the experience. But I've been in bougie places that don't treat me nice. So I enjoy the ones who do, and I patronize their businesses. Is that the right word? I patronize their establishments, but I'm not a highfalutin person. I'm not saying you have to have no brand names like me, but I feel like if Gucci is not paying me, I don't need to display Gucci unless I just like what Gucci is offering. I like unique things. I like certain colors. If it's a unique thing and it's in the color I want, then I'm going to buy it, right? But some of us, we are so quick to point fingers at all the things we don't want to do to get out of debt that we poo-poo the people that really are out debt building wealth. Again, let me tell you something about a lot of these gurus. I know a lot of these financial gurus in person, and while they will tell you how to leverage debt and how to have this esoteric thing and how to do credit card arbitrage and what was the new one that was coming out? It was mortgage arbitrage, and there's another type of arbitrage that people are doing now. Like, they come up with all these things and it's so esoteric and it sounds so cool. And you know what's really great about it? It sells them a lot of courses. But do you know what most of them do in their own private life? They live a debt-free lifestyle and they invest in real estate or the stock market. And if they do take leverage in the form of a loan, they have enough in other assets that if something goes south, they can quickly pay it off. Yeah. So anywho, okay, I don't want anybody listening to you like, she plans her meals, I don't think I need to listen to her. Hey, you go find somebody else with a paid for house, all right? I'm sorry, I'm feeling myself a little bit today. But seriously though, I plan my meals out. I plan my meals out. I think about what snacks I'm going to want. And of course, I might want something else. That's what the fun money is for. But you plan. And when you're strategic and you plan and you make the plan and you work the plan, then the plan works for you. And so I want to encourage those of you who are stay-at-home, who have where one of the parents is a stay-at-home parent. I'm going to teach you in the next 30 minutes. And if you're listening on a podcast, it'll be the next episode. I'm going to teach you how to work a business in 2 hours a day. But even if you don't work a business, you can make such a huge contribution to your household. You would be shocked at how much little one spouse has to earn in order to have a fulfilling life when you've got somebody at home managing it well. Okay. All right. So again, if you're listening to this as part of the Ladies of Wealth podcast, I want to encourage you to come join us on Thursday nights, because that's when we record these live. You can ask your questions live, or you can actually drop them in the chat, or you can just participate and just get the first fruits. And the best part about it is it's absolutely free. You know, I remember being $800,000 in debt, and I know it didn't matter how amazing the courses were. I wasn't buying it. You could have the most amazing course that was going to get me out of debt in 3 months. I did not have 2 pennies to pinch together, and I was not spending not even $1 on your course. And then once I got to the point where I could spend $1 on your course, nobody had a course for $1. So then I learned how to become an affiliate so I could earn the courses that I wanted to take to boost my business. Okay. But the Thursday nights is free, and I'm always going to have at least one free class a week. Always, because I remember being in that situation, and I want to be a pathway to help you grow to success.
Don't forget to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and ask your question at ladiesofwealth.com.